Okay, let's talk about nutrition. Again, for anyone who knows about Blake's Health and Fitness, you'll know nutrition is a key pillar in our business model. So let's talk about it here. As far as nutrition in terms of sleep, we're not talking about eating a magic food that's going to put you out for the night. Not at all. We're talking about removing the foods or the foods eaten at a certain time that are going to interfere with your sleep and interfere with your recovery. So your late night meals, eating large or rich meals close to bedtime is going to keep the digestive system active. Now, this might not necessarily keep you from falling asleep, but it can often reduce the quality of your sleep and increase nighttime awakenings. Now, I feel like this is also a good point to bring up the fact that every person is different. Every body is different. So while some people might have a more, for lack of a better term, aggressive digestive system that will keep them up late at night when they eat too close to bedtime, other people, it might not faze them at all. So this is where learning your body and understanding what your body does and how it feels after you eat a big meal of consisting of whatever close to a certain time of night will do. When you start to learn yourself, you can start to strategize better. So another huge factor here is caffeine. Big thing these days. What people don't know is that caffeine actually stays in the body a lot longer than people expect. So even when you feel tired, if you've had caffeine recently, it can still keep you awake. Research actually shows that caffeine has a half-life in your body of about 5 to 7 hours. Now, this depends on the person. It could be more, it could be less, but on average, it's 5 to 7 hours. Controlled studies shows that caffeine taken about 6 hours before bed significantly reduced the overall sleep time and sleep quality. And then we're going to talk about blood sugar. So large swings in blood sugar, things from like skipping meals or eating very high sugar meals, can trigger stress hormones that can keep you awake. So in order to combat this, stable and balanced meals during the day at relatively consistent times is a huge factor and definitely something that everyone should do. All right, sleeping myth number 4. Using sleeping aids every night fixes the problem. So while sleeping aids can help to get you asleep and they can be fine on an infrequent basis, they can actually reduce the amount of time spent on those deeper levels of sleep. And in addition, they don't address the key factors of bad sleep. So the key factors that keep you from getting that good night's sleep, things like lack of movement, poor nutrition, improper environment, what have you, they're not being addressed when you are using sleep aids. So I'm not saying don't use them, especially if they're doctor prescribed, but maybe understand why you are using them and what internal or external factors are disrupting your sleep to the point where you have to rely on a sleep aid. All right, now we're going to talk about the other side of sleep, waking up, how to wake up on the right side of the bed. So when you wake up groggy in the morning and just groggy and out of it, it does not necessarily mean you had a poor night's sleep. It just might mean you just woke up out of a deep level of sleep, especially if you have an alarm that goes off, and it goes off and wakes you up out of your N3 or your REM sleep. It just shocks you awake out of your deepest stages of sleep, which is why you can feel out of it. The feeling of grogginess in the morning is actually called sleep inertia. And we're going to talk a little bit about it here in a second. A good way to fight this is a product called sunrise alarms. Now, a sunrise alarm is a very, very bright light that is also an alarm clock. So if you set your sunrise alarm for 6 a.m., then what's going to happen is about 45 minutes or so before your alarm is going to go off, it's going to turn on a very dim light. And as time progresses, it's gradually going to get brighter and brighter until it's time to wake up, and then the alarm is going to go off. So what this actually does is that light is actually starting to tell your brain, hey, it's time to wake up. It's simulating a natural bright light of the outside, which does wake you up. In addition to this, consistent wake up times are also really good to help programming the brain to wake up at a certain time. We've talked about that a few times here already. If you wake up at a certain time on a regular basis, after a while, the body is going to get used to that, and you're just going to automatically wake up at that time, and you're going to feel more full of energy, and you're going to feel more ready to tackle the day because your brain knows that this is when we're supposed to wake up. So it naturally pulls you out of those deep stages of sleep in advance to get you ready for it, as opposed to an alarm clock that shocks you awake. Definitely not saying don't use an alarm clock, but consistent wake up times definitely help. So in order to combat sleep inertia, if you have a rough night's sleep and you wake up and just feel groggy out of it, having a hard time focusing, movement is a great way to fight that right out of the gate. So instead of just laying in bed and just trying to wake yourself up that way, get up, walk, stretch, maybe a little bit of a workout or something like that. It can definitely help increase the circulation in the body and help clear up the sleep inertia. Now, I do want to make it clear, there aren't really any morning routines that can fully fix a bad night's sleep, but strategies like some of the ones that we're going to cover can reduce the morning grogginess and transition you into your day faster. Okay, let's talk about oversleeping. A lot of people think that if they're tired, they just need to sleep more. Well, research actually shows that oversleeping doesn't always solve fatigue. In a lot of cases, it's actually a warning sign of poor sleep quality. When someone needs 9 or more hours and is still waking up tired, it's a sleep quality issue. When your REM sleep is being disrupted, the body is naturally going to compensate by spending more time asleep, but this doesn't always translate into better recovery if you're not getting into those deep stages of sleep. Sleeping in late can shift the body's internal clock, eventually making it harder to fall asleep and increasing that daytime fatigue. Now, I'm not saying never sleep in. The occasional sleep in, longer sleep after a long, hard week is totally normal, and you should be totally fine. But oversleeping constantly can be a signal that it's time to look deeper, analyzing what is going on with your sleep, what's disrupting your sleep and keeping you from that good quality sleep and causing you to need more sleep just to feel rested. All right, now we're going to talk about fragmented sleep and sleep apnea. So there are plenty of factors out there that fragment your sleep. Things like a restless partner, having to take care of kids or the elderly, loud noises, lights, what have you. Now, overnight wake-ups might be just a necessary evil. Again, whether you're taking care of somebody, whether it be for a job or whatever. But if you use some of the tools that we've mentioned and some that we are going to mention, it can help you save the quality of your sleep that are, excuse me. If you use some of the tools that we're going to mention, it can actually help you get a good quality sleep with the time that you have. Issues breathing can be an issue. So breathing issues can be something that requires medical intervention. Things like snoring, mouth breathing, or partial airway collapse can actually shock the system into waking up. Even if it's just for a second, that's all it takes to pull you out of those deep stages of sleep. And then you need to go back through the journey of N1, N2, N3 back into REM, which can be enough to ruin a night's sleep. Breathing issues like this can keep the nervous system in a heightened state, and it can keep you from falling into that deep night's sleep. If you do have issues snoring, waking up short of breath, gasping, or like choking at night, these could all be signs of underlying issues, and it may be time to explore the option of a sleep test. All right, now we're going to jump into sleeping myth number 5. Light, noise, and snoring aren't a big deal. I'm a heavy sleeper. A lot of people have, yeah, I know everyone's heard this from someone. I've actually said that before many times. I am a pretty deep sleeper. But I do want to make it clear that even the smallest disruptions can disrupt your sleep and slowly fragment your sleep, even if you don't notice it. As we talked about before, you can go from a stage of being asleep to awake even for a moment without realizing it. And then you need to go back down through the journey to get back into your deeper stages of sleep. So that being said, it might be disrupting your sleep even if you don't notice. So that's why it's so important to optimize your sleep environment.